Hello, and welcome to the Conscious Communion podcast, where we traverse through the inner dwellings of the human experience through conversation. I'm your host, Danae. Join me as we explore the interconnection of creativity and community. Welcome to a special episode of the Conscious Communion podcast, where we are chatting with my sweet beloved Bryan Hillberg. It is our 8th anniversary today, April 11th. So in commemoration of 8 years, I really wanted to just use this time to have a conversation with you about your creative path and how it's led you to where you are today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Sweet.
Yeah.
So when I met Bryan, we really actually quickly became friends through art. I didn't really have the same capacity for art that he did. And I quickly realized that. I believe that I shared that in our first episode, that we were sharing a little bit about our relationship and how that began. Did. But going into the garage and spending time with Bryan and his best friend, Bryan, was really a sweet opportunity to getting some insight as to what inspired you in your creative process. And it was nature, always nature. Mm-hmm. So I really want to ask you, how did that process begin for you? When did it begin? And how did it inspire you to be creating the things that you're creating today?
I could talk about that for a long time.
Do it.
So just tell me when to stop. I started at a young age. I know that I was probably maybe 4 or 5. I recall, painting and sketching, and I make it sound so exquisite, but it was more just me with a bucket of crayons. But I started at a young age. A lot of creative outlets at my disposal. I played outside a lot, mainly with my brothers. We weren't really encouraged to be inside and watch movies, or even though we did occasionally, but majority of my time was outside. So there was a lot of exploring that entailed going to the local quarry or dam with my older brother, finding snakes and frogs and picking up rocks, discovering scorpions underneath, finding racer snakes, going out to my grandma's house. My grandma and grandpa, who lived in Escondido, they had a giant orchard. So there was a lot of me and my younger brother playing in the orchard, hide and seek. There was I remember a wash with a giant tunnel to take all the runoff in the area. And we would kind of see who can go down the tunnel the farthest. And there was always cobwebs and black widows, but there was also tons of frogs that would hang out behind the drain pipes there. We'd find tomato worms, on the plants, and squirrels, rabbits, coyotes, raccoons, all sorts of fun stuff, So I felt like I was always exploring, always seeking something in nature that was kind of calling to me. And I wanted to observe it. I wanted to, jot it down or catalog it somehow in my collection of things that I've drawn. I'm definitely a collector by nature and an observer. So art for me was a really great outlet to do those things. Never, really was adamant about finishing a sketchbook. Even a project was, finishing a project was difficult for me. So I did a lot of half-assed stuff, or got only so far and then put it aside and moved on to the next thing. And it wasn't until later on, when I was in high school and I actually got into my first legit art class and met my best friend, Brian Bueno, that, and Johnny Liu, another one of my best friends, that I kind of went off onto this much deeper creative path. And I think having, 2 other men that were just as creative, if not more creative than I was, or just in different capacities, to kind of throw ideas at and create this community with, it really propelled me forward, and it helped me discover that this was something that I wanted to do. So
That's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, I think having an incredible community of artists who see the world in a different way also was super beneficial to your progress and how you've evolved as an artist.
100%.
So, being that art really had its calling come to you through nature and curiosity and exploration, I'm curious how that still plays a role in your creative process today.
Well, I think it plays a huge role because, you know, if I can say, being married to you, you're a nature girl yourself, clearly, as you wear your national parks shirt. That's one of the things that really brought us together was being out in nature. We would always go on hikes together. There was some bars and stuff and some drinking, but like any relationship, but I think that it was more of a draw for us to be out in nature. Totally. So while, friends of ours were meeting at bars and doing that thing, we were kind of like waking up early, going out into the canyon, finding little hidden paths. And it wasn't just you and I, it was like a collective of people. And we're like, yeah, let's go on an adventure. Let's go discover. So fast forward to where we are now. It still plays a really big role where we are here in Portland, seeking more of life, actual visible life around us, the greenery, the winters, the seasons, the birds that fly down on our porch, going to the river and fishing, being out by the coast. There's so much to draw from, no pun intended, but I think this is answering your question. I get on tangents, but I feel like my pool that I'm able to collect inspiration and motivation from is very deep at this point in my life. I spent a lot of time in my younger years, and by younger I mean 20s, doing some shows with my buddy Bryan. Really trying to get myself out there. I thought that I wanted to make it as a gallery artist. And so that was kind of the thing that I really put all my efforts in, creating big acrylic pieces, finding the biggest canvas, spending a long time on it, finding like a series or a theme and really running with it, finishing my first pieces. That was really critical for me to actually put my mind to something and finish it. After I kind of did that for a while and it kind of lost its, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of magnetism or honeymoon phase. It wasn't like I didn't want to do that anymore. I just felt like there was more that I wanted to do. And so I started doing some murals for the city that I grew up in, some little things like electrical boxes or some pieces down some of the alleyways that I used to frequent, like walking down to my car. Now I was able to see some of my art pieces there. And that was really cool for me to see a visible impact that I had made on the city I grew up in, and the little kids coming up and taking pictures in front of the pieces or finding them on Facebook or Instagram or social media. That was really inspiring myself. Like, oh wow, like I can do something with my art. I can make some money off of it too, which is cool, but I'm making like an impact on other people. So, after I kind of pursued that for a while, I got connected with my buddy, Adam. He's an old friend of mine. Adam and I go way back. One of the best people I know, a great guy, great man. And, he had just moved back from Europe with his family, and he connected with me and he asked if I wanted to get together and sketch with him. So I was like, yeah, like, of course I want to draw with you. Let's go. So we met at an old stomping ground that, we used to hang out at, called No Future Cafe. And it just kind of began to snowball into this whole other beast that we did not imagine it turning into. And that turned into Atelier, which was a bi-weekly sketch night. So, we were inviting everybody from the community. It was college students, high school students, passersby, people we met, at the gas station or cafe, or friends of ours. And so many people came through this atelier. We started doing music. And I remember this moment for me being a very critical moment in my art path, mainly because I wasn't actually creating that many pieces of art at this time. Mm. But what was happening was I was observing again. And I was really observing what it was like to see people have this reinstilled excitement for art, for the visual arts mainly, but this creativity that is inside everybody, I believe, was able to come out. And all it took was like a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of, a pal or a buddy right there, like, yeah, you got this, turn that into a spaceship, or like, maybe you should make some scenery around it. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it. Yeah. Just really, really encouraging one another, because I feel oftentimes we get critiqued, and critique is great. Critique will help you grow. It's a great tool, but it can also be really detrimental if not used in the right way. Totally. And I think that's where a lot of artists lose their passion for whatever art it is that you do, or you were passionate about at one point. We get told that it needs to be a certain way to be successful, or it needs to look a certain way for this viewer. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that there's millions of viewers out there, and all of us are drawn to something different. And so I have seen so many successful artists out there, and they all do something different. You can fit the format. You can hone in on the craft and really get your foundational skills down, and you'll probably succeed. But there's something really special about breaking those barriers down and really leaning into what you naturally gravitate towards. So going back to this time at the atelier, it was a really important time for me, because I was diving into some new mediums. I got into watercolor art, and I started taking classes again. I never had the chance to go to, official college, and I really regretted that, because formal schooling and sitting in a classroom, school was something I really enjoyed. I feel like I really would have excelled in that. But this was an opportunity for me to almost lead myself in art and do something proactive, where I'm, naturally a procrastinator. The ball was in my court. I was able to kind of lean on my experience skateboarding. I've been skating since I was 13 years old. Helped run a skate shop with my buddy George, Sticks Ride Shop, down in Monrovia.
Shout out George.
Shout out George.
We love you.
We love you, George. But skating is so different than any other sport, if you want to call it a sport. But you lead yourself, you and your buddies. You go skate together, and you cheer each other on, and you fall, and you get up, and you eat shit, and then you get up. And some people quit, and it's because you're in shit all the time, and you're falling on concrete, and it really hurts. But you're in charge. You don't have a coach, telling you what to do or kind of teaching you. And so this kind of mirrored my path in skateboarding and art together. Plus it had an edge to it, and I wanted my art to have some sort of edge to it, or maybe not even edge. It was more style. I wanted it to have a style, because all skaters have their own style, right? Swag. And so that's something that I had been kind of discovering through this process was, do I have a style? Do I have something that's different about what I do? Am I just kind of perpetuating the art that's already out there? Am I saying anything with my art? I think that it started leading me down a path where I was not only just the observer And then at times I was the creator or explorer. I was able to marry the two together and really find a good rhythm to observe, create. Mm-hmm. And that all happened because I started setting myself up with some structure. You're a very structured individual in the best of ways. Yeah.
Almost to a fault.
Yeah, but give yourself credit, you know? I think that's something that I lacked, not because it wasn't taught to me, but because I wanted to do my own thing and I hated being told what to do.
Totally.
And so if that's the case, you know, and you don't like being told what to do or asked what to do, it's like, you got to have some sort of structure so you're not aimless. Mm-hmm. So I started, you know, creating a vision for myself, or like leaning on the vision that I believed that was for my life. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there's more to that story, but I'll take a breath.
Yeah.
And you can.
I would love for you to further extend more conversation around that. Do you believe that was spirit led? I know that you've really had such a personal relationship with the divine and the creative force that surrounds you. So I'm curious if that was an intuitive conversation with spirit. That's and the structure that was put forth was that through your intuition with spirit leading, or was it something else?
That's a good question. You know, painting and drawing, sketching, doing anything, you know, where you're sitting down staring at one thing for a long period of time, you tend to go into this space, or you have the potential to go into a space where you kind of go into autopilot, especially if you've been doing it for a while. So I found that years and years ago when I was painting in my garage, I would go into this autopilot zone. It was around the time that I had left a church, and I was feeling very lost because I had poured so much into that life there. And it's not like I walked away and felt like everything that I had done was meaningless, and I didn't walk away like angry and embittered. I tried to walk away with a sense of understanding, and that there was meaning to my time there, and there was meaning to the rest of my life thereafter. And what would that look like? Because I think deep down, creating is a very spiritual practice, and it really can be. It can be life-changing. There's points where I've been creating in the garage, and I've had to stop because I'm like really moved by the moment. You know, a song will come on. I listen to a lot of music when I'm painting, and it's like, man, I'm thinking about my life. I'm really going inward, and I'm having to wrestle with all of these things that I kind of brush to the side on a day-to-day basis. So when I'm painting and sketching and I'm in that autopilot zone, I'm forced to confront these monsters. I'm forced to confront the joys, the losses, the failures. And I think that if there's anything that creating has taught me in recent years, it's not stopping when you fail at something, and being okay to continue and make things better and work forward, you know? Yeah. Cause you know, I go online a lot to post stuff on Instagram and kind of promote my work or whatever. I hate doing it, but you know, I want to be able to get my stuff out there and share what I'm doing. Cause I'm excited about it. You know, I'm excited like any other artist would be excited, but there's a side that's like not polished. There's a side that is really rough. There's the process. There's the foundational lines. There's the mess ups. the fuck ups, the screw ups, the just blatant, I'm going to rip this page in half because this is garbage. But I've really learned to not do those things anymore, like really tear at my artwork, but see what it kind of becomes, work with it, not tear it out of my sketchbook, allow my sketchbook to be this place where I'm free to do whatever I want to do in it, and I believe that's really important for any creative, is to have a place in what you're doing to be free.
Yeah. Free
from maybe the views of other people, whether that's 2 people, 10 people, 100 people. Just have a place that's yours, because it's a really special thing. You can go back and you can remember so much. I remember where I was. I just finished my first sketchbook. In my entire life, I finished a sketchbook. It took me a year. It was a goal, and I did it. And it may seem like a small accomplishment to some people. I have friends that finish a sketchbook 3 times a year, and I'm so proud of them. I'm so excited for them. But this was a huge accomplishment for me in doing so. And I can go back and see the pit stops along the road, page by page, like, oh yeah, I remember that night. I called my nephew called me up, and he wanted to draw. So we were, exchanging random modifiers and doing some fun little sketches. Oh, I remember when I went over to my buddy Morgan's house, and we were, just sketching, watching some bad 80s movies, some horror together. And yeah, that's in the sketchbook. The late nights, staying up, talking on the phone with friends back home, taking it out to a cafe and visiting certain spots. And I remember those days. And I think that's what art has really done for me, is it's become my diary. It's become my roadmap to my life in a lot of ways. For somebody as forgetful as I am, for things, or who can be very nostalgic, I really am beginning to appreciate the daily tasks, and what seemed like a chore at first is now a joy to sketch. I take my sketchbook into the break room every lunch that I'm at work, or I try to, and I get down, and sometimes people come up and they're like, what are you doing over there? You got your iPad set up, you got your sketchbook out, you got your oil, you got your watercolors, you got your napkins, like all your pens and pencils. And I got an hour to do it all in. And some people really love it, and they've been encouraged by it. And others have begun to start sketching. And, someone did that for me. And so I want to do that for others. And I'm realizing that's something that I can gift. I may not be a teacher in the sense of, maybe I'm not going to explain how to draw the human anatomy correctly. But I can at least point you in the right direction and help be a friend along the way in your creativity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you are a leader. You wear that hat in your role where you work. So I think it's also an incredible opportunity to lead by example. And so much of the creative process is really just starting. It's really just starting and letting the creative flow move through you. And I've seen that ebb and flow for you for the 11 plus years that we've been together, going on 12.
Yeah.
I've really seen you have a process that's been fulfilled with community, without community. And really in Portland, you've had to find that deep well of creativity apart from the individuals who've really influenced you in your creative process. So what has that been like, to find that deep inner knowing, to find that well of creative curiosity, and to pull from that well?
That's a good question. All these good questions. You are quite the interviewer.
That's not me.
I think, So I think, being surrounded in Los Angeles, where I'm from, where we're from, it was really amazing for me. I had a plethora of people to connect with. I had community wherever I went at any time. I could hit up friends at 6 a.m. I could hit them up at 2 a.m. I could hit them up in the afternoon. And there was always something to talk about, to do, to create. And I really missed that when I moved up here. I had to leave the atelier behind. And it was one of the harder decisions that I was leaving behind. I love all the people. I love all of our friends and family, and I miss them dearly. But that was really hard because I felt like I was leaving behind such an amazing gift that it was in my life every week. Mm-hmm. I was a part of something that was fueling my passions and my desires and my future. And I was seeing genuine, positive outcome from my efforts. I was learning. I had enrolled in schoolism.com. If you don't know what schoolism is, you need to check it out. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Bobby Chu, I believe, is the one who founded schoolism. And then he founded Lightbox Expo with a bunch of other artists. And that's held in Pasadena every year. And so I would go to Lightbox Expo, and I remember doing these workshops with artists that were working in the industry. And I would take my notebook and I'm jotting down everything these people are saying. Steven Silver and Nathan Fowkes and all these artists that Mike Vignola, getting to meet these people firsthand and realizing they're just cool dudes that, or chicks that are doing their thing. And I was so inspired, and I left. I felt like I was leaving that. But what I learned up here was that I wasn't necessarily leaving it. I was just having to change my perspective. And again, the ball was in my court. So it's like, you had your opportunity to work alongside of all your buddies, this team. It felt like, what are you going to do with all this information you've, gained? What are you going to do with all the experience you've gained? Are you just going to throw it away? Are you going to revert back to old patterns? And I think there was a period of time when we moved up where I wasn't really sketching or painting or doing anything when we first moved in. I was pretty depressed. I was like ornery. I was anxious. I was just not in a really good place. And I think that was the first year that we were here.
It was.
But it wasn't until I started diving back in and kind of relearning what it meant for me to be an artist, and how important and vital it was to my day to day. Because I find that I'm a better person. I find that I'm more joyful. I find that I'm more giving. I'm more forgiving. I'm more engaging with people. I'm more myself, or at least I know myself to be. There will be waiting periods. There will be times where you feel like you're stagnant or stuck. So expect that. And I know that it'll probably happen again. I hope it doesn't happen for a long time, because I'm riding a really good wave right now. But in that stagnation that I was feeling, I didn't realize I was also making some really great connections. There was a man, Mark, when I first moved up here, that I met at the place that I work. And he is probably the best pastel artist I have ever met. This guy is a wizard with pastels. He's nuts. He will just capture the lighting and these beautiful, God, I'm blanking on I'm blanking on terminology because I'm freaking out because his pastels are just so good. Compositions. His compositions are just unreal. And he'll go out and he does plein air. And we got to talking.
Can you explain what plein air is for folks?
So plein air is essentially you taking your medium that you're working with out into the real world, and most often painting, sketching, drawing nature or some scenery. So you can plein air your city, you can plein air a tree, a rock, whatever, river. And being up here in Portland, Oregon, there's so much nature around. So he was truly a huge catalyst to me getting back into art. So Mark, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. I love you, man. But the thing I liked about Mark was he was older than me, and more mature, more experienced, more educated, but he was so childlike in his wonderment with art and with his visualization of it, of the world around him. And I saw a lot of myself in him in ways, because I was like, man, you can be excited about what you're doing. You don't have to be stuffy and pretentious about art. Like there's a place for that, cool, fashion, like movies, whatever. Like there's so many different genres and attitudes and perspectives, and I love it all. But what I loved about Mark was that I was able to see a little bit of a mirror, and I was like, yeah, I can be excited. I can be amped about what I'm doing and not feel like I'm gloating. Because I used to just keep all this stuff inside. I would never talk about my art. I would never show anybody my art. And people would always ask, why aren't you showing people? It's because I don't want anyone to look at it. I don't want the attention. But I think what shifted for me was just realizing that it doesn't have to be about getting attention when you're helping somebody heal these views about what it means to be an artist. It doesn't mean about getting like acclaim or fame or any of that stuff. It really doesn't. It's a healing mechanism that helps you to better understand the world and maybe helps other people to see through your eyes, and maybe give them some perspective. Whether it's a weird picture of like a goat man sitting under a lamppost, or if it's a dragon flying, around a volcano in this epic conceptualized video game art, or if it's just a lady sitting on a bench with an umbrella, like it doesn't matter. It's all just, how is this person viewing the world around them? How is this person seeing life? And it's really, really quite interesting, because we all have so many things that will kind of shape how we view the world. Some people are angry. Some people are sad at the world. Some people are bitter. Some people are happy, joyful. I don't think any of that's bad. I just think that at least they're giving you a viewpoint to like look through their lens, because we all feel those ways at different times. As a man, as me, I don't really talk about my feelings too much, but when I paint, or when I sketch, I feel like I am able to say it in my own language. I'm able to put it out there, what I'm kind of feeling, even if it's just sketching an otter, or if it's painting a spider. Sometimes it gives off a certain feeling, and I'm like, yeah, I need to share this. Like, yeah, I feel it, that's cool, right? Or, oh yeah, it's kind of sad looking, right? I don't know.
Yeah. You get to depict what you're actually experiencing. And even if the conversation doesn't take place for someone to have that insight, you get to understand it, and you get to have something to look back at that helps you understand the world in the way that you understand the world, which is a really beautiful gift.
It's like people watching. You're observing the observer.
Yeah, totally.
you put out this art and then you show somebody and you get to see their reaction to it. And what is their reaction to it? Is that reaction off-putting? Does it make you want to stop? You know, is that reaction positive? Does it make you want to continue?
Ooh.
Is that reaction authentic? Do you trust that what they're saying is legit? Are they giving you something of value in return after this piece you've created? You know, there's a lot of people out there that have given me really honest feedback about some of my work, and I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it, because, you know, there's the side of me that's like the pride side, right? Oh, you don't know. What are you talking about? What art have you ever done? You know, do you even create any visual art? Like, what do you know about this? You're just going to tell me you don't like it. You're just using words you don't understand. And I would find myself getting, you know, angry when I wasn't getting the right responses. And that was young Bryan, you know, and those voices would stick with me. And I would hear them sometimes when I was at a critical moment in a piece and I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, should I put the house 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right? Where do I make the road? Does the, you know, and so you hear these voices play back like, you know, your composition's off, you know, you really need to lean into your lighting and maybe focus less on colors and really more focus on your values, you know. And these voices would come in and they started to become an encouragement. Okay, fine. I'll show you that I can do this. And so I do it all the time. And I'm really, really trying to take those critiques to heart. So not so that I can prove anyone wrong, but to prove to myself that I can do it. And so it's a constant learning, and to be in a constant learning state really slows down time. You know, it allows me to make each day unique. It allows me to be present in the moment. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I also think it's a good spiritual practice, moving through the stagnancy, right?
For sure.
Moving through the discomfort of what it's like to have expectations and hopes for your art and still choosing to do it anyways because it fills your cup. And coming to that realization has been transformative for you. You're an artist all the time with how you see the world, with how you interact with people. You are a creative conversationalist, the way that you tell stories. I think it's interesting for folks to have more insight into my sweet husband and who he is. He came up in the world, not crying, with his eyes wide open, looking around at the world, looking around at the people that were in the room when he was born. And automatically, you know, people think that there's something wrong, but the doctors reassured everyone in the room he's fine. And he was just looking around the room, eyes wide open, observing, always an observer, coming from a place of pure curiosity. And I, knowing you as well as I do, have such sweet insight into how you interact with the world and how you articulate your observations and your curiosity into not only your art, but in how you make your food, how you clean, how you are with our cats.
It's like a ritual almost.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
It's funny.
Yeah. So what does that curiosity breed within you to create those rituals for yourself?
Well, I think the fact that, you know, I said this earlier that I was in the church for a while. You know, I had rituals that I would do. You know, I would open my Bible. I would read the Bible. I'd read the passage. I would meditate. I would pray on it. You're doing these things, right? And at some point it becomes almost like a religious practice. Well, it does. And when I left that, it was like, well, I can still connect spiritually through this process. And I want to keep it, what's the word? Like, I want to keep it as fresh and as honored and respect it as possible what I'm doing. We're all different in our art form, but I could be painting like crazy, really rush pieces, but the whole setup process was still the same. It was like, okay, I'm going to clean my brushes. I'm going to lay that down here, and everything's got its like little spot. And okay, I'm going to fold up my napkin, and that's going to be here. I could need my glass of turpentine or water. And, I'm setting up this whole space, it almost takes me like an hour and a half to set up. And I'm like, in the midst, I'm like, oh, I got to go fold this blanket. And like, I'm making my environment like the environment that I want to be in, which is peaceful and almost like unadulterated, which is kind of unusual for most of the artists I met, because most artists are actually kind of messy and haphazard. And I'm really not that way. I'm very much just like an organized individual, and kind of felt like outcasted a little bit mentally, because I was like, man, I wish I didn't have to spend so much time doing these weird processes just to like set up my sketchbook. I could be saving so much time, but I realize it brings me a lot of joy, to prepare myself for what I'm about to do. Even if it's just drawing a funny face or, something seemingly unimportant. I still want to enter into that practice and that art with some intention, whether it's just to get some anger out, whether it's to be frustrated. And it's funny because usually when I go into art, like maybe if I'm angry or maybe if I'm like kind of feeling a certain way that's not really, doesn't feel like conducive to what I'm about to create, that hour's time of setup is almost like a meditative process where I'm like really just allowing myself to cool down, or I'm allowing myself to let go of whatever the day's kind of dumped on me. And then I can process it into something that I want to do. And I don't feel even more angry when it doesn't turn out the way I want. I can actually like be chill about it. Yeah, I spent 4 hours on that and I'm not really proud of it, but I did it and I'm not, I feel good, still feel good. Does that kind of answer?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's still part of the process. Even if you're doing it, that's how you learn. I think some of those opportunities that we get to add to our tool belt as a part of the process that maybe not feel as comfortable as creating something that you're super proud of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That too is just, in my experience, it's almost more of something that I can take into my process and learn from, which will in turn assist me the next time around. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I really love your color schemes. I love that nature is truly at the forefront of the majority of your pieces. And I really wanted to ask what inspires you in your color schemes when you're creating your color schemes, when you don't necessarily have what's in, how does that part of the process become a part of the process? So
color is the last thing I think of.
Interesting.
I don't care really about color. For me, it was all about the shapes. And so certain shapes I gravitate to a lot more. So when I'm painting, like, I really love insects. I love arthropods, any crustacean or cephalopod, mollusk, whatever. And if it's got a million legs, if it's got wings, if it's got sharp edges, something, shiny, different contrasts of textures, I really enjoy that. So I haven't really done a lot of mammals until recently. I kind of got into doing more birds, but it was more about the shapes. But colors, I think, come a little later. I learned about 4 years ago in one of my classes, not to really invest so much in color. In fact, I was requested to only work in values, which was black and white and grayscale. So I could choose 3 values, a dark for shadows, a mid-tone, and maybe a lighter gray. And then white is your highlights. And so you're looking at this beautiful scenery filled with greens and reds and purples and violets and blue, you're like, oh my God, that's going to look so great. And then you have to do it all in black and white. And it's like, oh man, it sucks. Like, you're not going to really get like all the beauty that's there, but it really helped me to understand depth of field. It helped me understand where my shadows were, what was interesting about this thing I was looking at to begin with. Oh, wow. Like, there's a lot of like interesting contrast right here in this image. And so then when you layer on the color after, you're just kind of amazed at how much better it looks than if you were to just go in full force. So yeah, I love color. I think it's great. It's definitely the icing on the cake for me. I know you really like the colors that I choose. I think that I can go overboard. So I really have to limit myself. I think that's actually a lesson for my life. Is to kind of give myself boundaries, because I'll just kind of veer off the side of the road and, oh yeah, like, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over there, and I'm all over the place. So everything kind of jumbles up. So I typically will stick to like a 3-color scheme, something pretty traditional like that. Every now and then I'll pull out my color wheel and try and find something that, lines up or complements itself. But I really like sticking to, greens. Really like greens, variations of reds. So I don't know. I think that color can change day to day for me. But yeah.
Almost like a mood.
Yeah. Color is just kind of maybe the mood I'm in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. So something really exciting and near and dear to our heart is a book that we are creating. And I wanted to talk to you about that.
Sure.
We are in the process of creating our first children's book. And this has been a dream of ours for a good majority of our relationship, I'd say, since we
for years.
Wed 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago? Last year?
2 years.
2 years ago.
We started.
2 years ago, I wrote, I guess it was 2 years ago already. 2 years ago, I didn't write. Spirit really just told me to pick up a pen and got out of the way and just started writing. And it was this, kind of came out like a poem. And it's about feeling our emotions. It's about sitting with that as a part of our experience in the human condition. And I couldn't think of anyone better to illustrate because of how you depict nature and everything that inspires us in our imagination, in our field, in our home. And we really are called to a lot of the same visual beauties. And I wanted to hear what your process was like to depict this book, because you really did it yourself.
Well, I think that it was exciting for me. And then like any project that I work on for a long time, it became frustrating for me. Because I felt like the stakes were high. I wanted so badly to make sure that I got everything right. So even before I started, we did the thumbnails, and I remember sitting in the cafe with you. We went out to one of our favorite restaurants, and, Danae has the whole poem laid out, and then I have like a little book, and I'm like, all right, let's go through it stanza by stanza, and we're going to create some sort of imagery off of this poem, because there's really no story here. We have to create a story out of this. What's happening? And so we were able to visualize what we were actually seeing, through the words that were written. And it was really fun. It was really beautiful. We were able to kind of create this little world, and, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was really cool. What we ended up, putting down on paper in these thumbnails, and we both left very, very much enthused about the whole thing. So we get home, and for the first couple months, I'm knocking out these first drafts, let's call them. And it's basically the next stage from these thumbnails. They're a little slightly bigger in pencil. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like maybe I'll do 3 panels per page. And I like this one. So I'm using some conceptual art schooling that my buddy took, some of the knowledge from that to like help me with this, and things I picked up along the way that maybe I can use as tools. And as I'm going along, I'm like, okay, time for draft 2. And so I pulled out my watercolor paper and I started doing 2 panels per page. And I went in full force, and about halfway through the book, it started taking this long, arduous crawl. And I'd say the amount of time that it took from when we first conceptualized the idea to when I started to slow down was probably 5 or 6 months. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the second drafts, which I've been working on, just got completed a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And that would land us at almost a year and a half. So it was this long, lengthy crawl. You know, we had been experiencing relationships up here in Portland. We had been going out and fishing. We had been going out and exploring. So there was a lot of fun and living life, you know, everyday life. I didn't want to become, so committed to this project that it was going to consume me. But at the same time, it was almost like I was dreading nearing the end because I wasn't ready. I didn't feel like I was qualified or experienced enough to really put out this book. You know, I didn't have any sort of illustrative work out there. I didn't feel like I belonged in that playing field. But Danae believing in me so much, it was a huge encouragement to really push myself again into the uncomfortable. So now I'm on my final draft of the third draft, and they're, the large arches watercolor blocks that I love to work on so much. I haven't really touched them in a long time because I've been working so small. But I'm finishing up page 1 and 2, and I have 28 others to do, but I'm finding this new breath of fresh air and this new, oomph in my steps. So I'm really excited about it. I took some storyboarding classes on Schoolism to kind of help me with my shots. Took some lighting and shadow classes with Daisuke and Tonko House. I've been listening to different talks from Nathan Fowkes on YouTube. There's tons you can find. And then I've been sketching a ton, which I found has really helped me with my line work and confidence in what I'm putting out there. Only because I want to put this out and I want it to have some meaning. I don't want to be lazy about it. I don't want to be the procrastinating Bryan where I'm doing everything at the last minute. So it's just taking me a little bit longer, but go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's interesting. And I feel like it's important to note because I'm all about vulnerability and transparency. There was a part of my process where I was just wanting him to finish. I just wanted the book to be done. And we had to have a conversation where I admittedly just had to say, you know what, look, I've been just kind of nagging you, which isn't helpful to your process. And obviously it's not what we're looking to emit in the energetics of this book. It's like literally the opposite of this thing that we are trying to birth into the world. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to ask for a deadline. This is going to happen in its time. I trust Spirit. I trust God and you in the process and allowing this creative force to be what it needs to be. And so that has been a dance for myself to trust you in your creative process and trust God and you in that way. So it's been a really incredible testament to our relationship and just seeing it through a new lens because this is our first real collaboration that we've ever done.
Yeah.
So it's been really exciting.
First one ever.
Yeah, it's been really exciting.
It's pretty cool.
And I'm super proud of you. He works full time. So it's like, not only is he putting forth all of this energy and this time and this intention into this book, but he works full time. And that's exhausting in itself. And he still needs to rest. So I'm proud of you.
In the wise words of my father, I'll sleep when I'm dead. No, I do appreciate, you know, your ability to keep pushing me in this too, because you know that I can do it. And that's been really nice. You know, you're so much a part of my creative journey that sometimes it's hard to remember, you know, just how many times you sat there drawing right next to me in that garage when we first met. You know, yeah, it is a special time. You know, I think I said in the last podcast, but when we met, it was like, hey, come over and hang out with my buddy, you know, Bueno. We're going to sketch in the garage. Oh, cool. Comes over and we got these full-fledged art pieces going and we're getting ready for a show up in San Francisco. And it was, you weren't daunted by it enough to leave. You wanted to be a part of it. And if I can say anything, that's what we wanted. You know, that's what I wanted as an artist, is to bring others in. Let's do this. Like, let's create, let's go. There's so much to witness. There's so much to observe. There's so much to create. Stop dragging your feet, you know, and let's do this. Let's go. So it's going to be exciting when we actually like get that first book out there on the shelves and we're like, oh, who's going to buy it? You
That's
know,
our baby.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens, but I also am just grateful to have it for us. You know, it's ours. And I'm proud to create anything with you. I'm proud to have been able to walk this life with you for 8 years. And that's been a creative journey and just learning to ebb and flow in relationship.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
What a dance it's been. Hasn't been easy, but it's been beautiful.
100%.
We're both super independent. We both like what we like, but luckily we're drawn to so much of the same things.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to be your wife.
Proud to be your husband. Oh, how cute. All right.
I would really love for you to provide some sense of insight, some sort of suggestion or wisdom, if you will, for other creatives out there in their process, whatever it may be.
Okay. I would say, first and foremost, find a friend. Find a friend that you can create with. If you can't do it, you know, on your own, find a friend. Because I think that's what really pushed me in the beginning, was just having another mind to kind of help you work things out. It really helps to have a partner. You know, I've been super fortunate, super blessed in my life to have lots of creatives surrounding me. And I think that during the hardest times where I was just like really struggling with art, is this something I want to do? I should probably give up. I'm not that good, or whatever it was that was kind of weighing me down. Those actual voices in my life were like, dude, just stop, bro. Like, just keep going. You got this. You know what? In fact, here's some tools here. Like, do this. Some of the best tools and advice that I've gotten, I'd say, try not to listen too much to what other people want you to create or want you to do, like, creatively. It is nice to have critique. It is good to have advice and, you know, sound advice that will help further your development, and strengthen your craft, your skill set, whatever it is. But there are a lot of voices out there that just kind of want you to stop if you're not doing what they want to see. And you can just tell those people to shut the fuck up. Like, it's totally fine. Like, you don't have to do anything that they say. You can do exactly what you want to do. Yeah. Yeah. Fuck them. Anyways, but also people are great. I think that another thing that really helped me out was asserting myself into being more assertive, inserting myself into situations that were like outside of my realm of comfort, just a little bit more. So like doing a gallery, or I'm sorry, it was more of an art show, but doing my first art show, it's like, all these other people are so good. They're all like painting like propaganda art, and they're like oil painting, and they're doing like super stylized biz dev, like da 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 da. But they saw something in me, and they brought out that ability to have a little bit more confidence in myself and the work that I was doing, and realizing that, yeah, like if I keep trying, if I keep, putting forth the effort, like I'll see some good results. And if these people are accepting me, that's great. Like I'm part of a group. I'm part of a community. So yeah, get yourself into some workshops, go visit exhibitions, go visit a museum, take your sketchbook, carry it with you. Make sure that like your art is always accessible. Don't keep it like in a drawer, tucked away in the closet. Keep your notepad out for ideas. I carry my shit in my backpack all day long. I'm at work. I'm on a 10-minute break. I'm on an hour break, whatever it is. Maybe I got 30 minutes before I go in and I got there early. I'm sketching. I'm doing something. Make sure that it's accessible. And there's tons of resources to look up online of how to make, your paint supplies accessible. I've done it with watercolors. I've done it with tons of paintbrushes, and I've compiled pretty much everything that I can create down to like this much space. I can leave it in my backpack, and I have my sketch pad. I got my iPad. I got, pretty much all my watercolors, a couple brushes, all my pencils and pens. Please don't rob me because I carry it with me all the time. But yeah, you can do it. Like anyone can do it. It's totally fine. And you don't have to spend a ton of money to do it. Most people just give away art supplies. Ask an artist and they'll probably give you some pencils. They'll probably give you an extra sketchbook. So that's my advice. I hope that's good advice.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for this time. How can people find you and your work?
They can find me on Instagram. Probably one of the easiest places to find me, Orange Dog 24. Orange Dog 24. Orange Dog was the name of my dog, Odie.
Sweet angel.
Odie for short. He was a little corgi. He was my buddy. So if anyone ever wondered why Orange Dog is my name, it's because of Odie.
An ode to Odie.
An ode to Odie. That's my email too, orangedog24@gmail.com if you want to like email me for anything or you got questions.
Do you have prints available?
I have prints available of most of my scenic stuff. I have some of my insect arthropod series that I was doing. And I have a couple originals that I'm willing to let go of. But yeah, I don't really do commissions. But if you want some bugs done or some animals, I throw out a suggestion. I've had some friends and some acquaintances do that in the past, and I've been happy to oblige. So, yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and everything that you do for our home and for yourself to continuously be a creative, inspiring individual who I love.
I love you too.
Yeah. Thank y'all for being here and spending your time with us. We appreciate you and love you wherever you're at. Bye.
Peace.
Hey there, it's Danae again. Just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and energy with me. If this podcast resonates, please like, subscribe, follow, and share if you're willing. Reviews help too, so if you're feeling the vibe, please leave a review where you can. Sending all the love. Peace.